for example, Western producers or sales agents, and they think we're one territory because when they sell their films to us, they sell them as one territory. But at the end of the day, there's so many different dialects. There's a lot of different subcultures, etc. So it's a complicated region. So. But I feel like Egyptians and Saudis have always somehow kind of understood each other. There's a lot, they really do share a lot.
The big question is the future of the Saudi cinema. I'm asking you this question in the presence of my friend, Mr. Abdullah Al-Ayaf. So a lot of people today is expecting from this new market something new, something original, something. My question is gonna be like very simple. As on a daily basis, as you as a young producer, how do you work on the network with the new talent? How do you work with the new, how do you look for the new filmmakers, new stories? What are you expecting from them? What they are expecting from you as a producer?
Right. I mean, before I answer that, I would like to, speak a little bit about how did I start?
Yeah, please. Yeah, please.
So back in 2012, I was lucky enough, like so many other Saudi young ambitious filmmakers, to get a scholarship to study abroad. And at that time, I graduated from New York Film Academy in Los Angeles, and I got my master's degree. And I made, by then, a lot of short films. And so then looking
as a filmmaker?
As a filmmaker, yeah.
Okay.
And then I found a lot of people telling me that from Hollywood, like, look, if you want to be part of the industry, you got to make a feature film. Without a feature film, you're not taken seriously. So I took that as a challenge, and I went to write my first feature film called Shoot, starring Amir al-Masri, British-Egyptian actor, and Patrick Fabian from the show Better Call Saul. And it was very challenging to get the money. So I remember I shopped around 20 different entities back in Saudi, and one of them, luckily, managed to give me the money to go make the film. But going against the odds, even I remember like talking to my parents, and they were like even challenging me. I think they inspired me to even go further to prove them wrong. They were telling me, no one will give you money. Like, we don't have Saudi cinema back home. Who's your audience? Like, how are you going to sell the film? But today, alhamdulillah, we managed to, I managed back then to make the film and get the money back for my investors. And the budget was very micro. But luckily, I managed to do all of that. And then I got picked up by a platform called View, and managed to produce with them a couple of series, and then NBC Studios, and then recently managing Rupture. But go back to your question about like, what do I do in daily basis? I mean, honestly, I'm constantly looking for talents like Saudi writers, and I'm very like surprised by the amount of talent we have today. I mean, in terms of writing like proper script formats and following the right structures. And we have such great talents, and I encourage them to be brave enough and start talking to international companies. And as a producer today, I have a very experience that I would like to share with everyone. When I started producing my own producing service company 3 months ago, and when I started meeting a lot of international platforms and exhibitors about my upcoming films, and they were telling me that, well, Aymen, you're one of you're the only Saudi producer that we've seen in the past 4 years. And I think that just tells me that we have Saudi producers, but I think they're not brave enough, or they don't have confidence in themselves to go and go to pitch their ideas and films. And don't get me wrong by saying this, but who is telling today the Saudi stories are like Egyptian producers or Lebanese producers, and that's fine. I mean, that's great if we can work together. But I think Saudis today, they need to step out of their comfort zone and talk to studios and productions and to tell their own stories.
But when Mohamed he mentions that he create Film Clinic because Film Clinic he wanted to work more and more on scripts first. Then he continue by producing, and he's a scriptwriter. As a producer yourself, how if like I don't know, you can give us an example of Rapture or something else. How do you work with this script? How can you convince the directors that the script is not ready? And if not ready, will you work with other scriptwriter? So this is important to process as a producer, because a producer is not just to put money on a film, but also I am asking you this to see you as a producer. How will you work? How will you work on creating something strong to have a strong lineup?
Right. I think every story is different. Every genre is different. I mean, and some talented writers. But before that, I think the most important thing is the chemistry between those three guys, like the director, the producer, and the writer. And I think my job today is to create that environment for them, that where it's very healthy for them to give each other feedback and work closely with each other. And today, finding a writers in Saudi, I'm not saying it's easy, it's difficult, but usually I mean, you know, we're establishing industry, so there is a lot of upcoming writers, and to test them, to know that they actually know how to write scripts. So I have a little homework for them, where I give them like, write me a scene where it has 3 pages, 2 characters, 1 location. Mm-hmm. So 20 of writers who asked me to come and write for me, I would say 10% of them come back with the answers, and the left, they don't show up because they're not serious. They don't really write the script or this homework. But that homework to me just tells me a lot about their creativity, about their style, about how can they fit 2 characters in 1 location in 3 pages. And I can tell what genre they picked, you know, to write that scene.
Yes.
And I think this homework is very helpful. Mm-hmm. I mean, to find just talents, because I get that a lot from different Saudi writers, like, hey, we want to work with you, we want to work with you. And I think that's very helpful. And of course, working with directors, I mean, I've worked with different directors from the region, like Jordanian and Saudis, and it's as Hefzy said, sometimes it's very hard to, they get a little bit defensive. But anything for quality, I think we should always fight for quality over personal, subjective opinions, if that makes sense.
I will ask you later on your relation with the fund that exists, or with the Film Commission, or with even ISRA, or with other organization. But I would like to ask Mohamed. Mohamed, you believe on the Saudi market, because I know from the beginning when you went there, you developed, you met a lot of director. You are interested in the market as because you know there is a lot of creativity. My question maybe for you, from maybe a lot of people, they don't know that there is a lot of amazing story in the Saudi Arabia, and how a producer from Egypt can help in the production between, for example, Egypt and Saudi, in the development of these stories, of this script. Because Ayman, he mentioned at the beginning the new talent, but the script need to be developed. So these films, once they are well built, they can travel, and then we'll talk about the local market in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah. Well, yes. I mean, I was, of course, I was very excited to be seeing this, this great progress that's happening. But at the same time, the reasons for it are I think everyone knows, it's no secret that in a country with more than 30 million young people who have been eager to to see their stories on screen for many years, you will get a lot of talents that need a little bit of attention, a little bit of support to develop their skills and their careers. But and ironically, somehow the biggest challenge is the pace at which you go, and I think the Film Commission and a lot of the organizations, a lot of the people that are sitting here are probably very aware of this, is how fast do you really go to build this industry, and it's great to go as fast as you can, but sometimes that speed could also be a challenge, because sometimes people need time to be ready. You know,
Yeah.
projects need time to be written properly.
Sure.
You need time to build an infrastructure of like Aymen said, of below the line talent, below the line crew. You know, just everything takes time. So I think what is interesting is how this process is unfolding. And for me, what I realized early on, I think the best producers are people who are not secretly directors who have lived an unfulfilled life of not becoming a director and decided to produce, or writers that, you know, failed as writers and decided to produce, so they try to tell their own stories by working with other talents. I think a really good producer will help a filmmaker tell their story in a better way, but not necessarily try to tell their own story as a producer via that, you know, that creative team. So it's not. For me, it's not rocket science, you know, for a producer from Egypt or from the US or from Europe to work with Saudi talent and help them to tell their stories in a better way. I think that's obviously the proximity between our cultures helps. The fact that we understand each other, that we share the same language, that we share a lot of the same traditions. But at the end of the day, the Arab world is as divided as you know, you can imagine, compared when you think of you know, Westerners, when I talk to, for example, Western producers or sales agents, and they think we're one territory because when they sell their films to us, you know, they sell them as one territory. But at the end of the day, there's so many different dialects. There's a lot of different subcultures, etc. So it's a complicated region. So. But I feel like Egyptians and Saudis have always somehow kind of understood each other. There's a lot, you know, they really do share a lot. I'm learning a lot about the country. I'm learning a lot about the filmmakers. I still see people every day that I didn't know before, and I realize that they've got something that they're, you know, carrying, either, you know, this great project, or they've done a really wonderful short film, or, you know, they've had this great experience that is just ready to build upon and you know, go on to the next level. So it's yeah, I think I'm trying to walk through this process with a lot of respect and a lot of and also at a relatively wise pace, not to run too fast, and you know, that's why things take time.
What are your relationship with the fund that exists in Saudi Arabia? What is your relationship with the Film Commission or with the other fund? But I don't know. Can you talk to us from your point of view? How do you work with this
honestly, like
institution?
Honestly, all the government institutions are very supportive. I mean, they have like, I mean, if you want to get a fund today as a Saudi, you can. There's so many different programs of funds. I mean, there is the Red Sea, there is the ITRA, there is. The investment, and there is NEOM rebate. I mean, there's so many different outlets, and that gives us pressure today as a Saudi filmmaker to produce a great content, because I'm looking for really like making some really great content in the upcoming few years, and that's what I'm expecting from Saudi filmmakers. This gives us the pressure to find the right story, to find the right crew, and really like make an outstanding story that can travel.
But how do you work with them? It means that, let's be like specific. Do you go with the project? Like you believe on a project, this is you work on, I don't know, with a filmmaker, wherever, like for example,
yeah, it's always
Mohamed. I asked him, he's working with Fatma Al-Benwi on Basma. So as you go with them to see them with a specific project, or
yeah, it's always great to involve them from the beginning. I mean, from the early stages, as you have a pitch deck or you're developing a script, and I'm talking to the Film Commission, I'm talking to the Red Sea now.
Yes.
I've just started a conversation through this festival actually about a new project that I'm working on, and talking to Alula and about how can we get a rebate from them or from NEOM, and it's there's so many ways. I mean, honestly.